they say that a crisis creates an opportunity. They say that never let a good crisis go to waste. Now, take that statement and don't apply it to the world. Apply it to your life. Because remember, you can fight the world, but it's like losing battle most of the time. But you can put that same energy that you would fight the world, put that energy into working on yourself, and you can improve your life and your quality of life while you're in the world. Most people waste their energy fighting the world, most things they can't control, instead of putting that energy into their own life, working on themselves and improving themselves. So there's a point in your life, midlife, let's say 40 years old. The average human lives to about 80 years old, so midway point is 40 years old. And there is what they call a midlife crisis. Now, why does a midlife crisis happen? Well, it's a turning point. It's a turning point where you start to have less life ahead of you, and urgency becomes higher to live the life maybe you always dreamed of or wanted. And as you lose runway towards the end of your life, if it seems like you're not going to accomplish those things, and definitely if you're headed down the wrong direction, you begin to have a crisis. You get hopeless, you get upset, you get mad, you get depressed, etc., right? So science kind of tells us that our brain doesn't fully develop till 25. And then after we're fully biologically developed, we don't have enough life experience, trial and error, to fully know ourselves till about 35. So the good news about a midlife crisis is by the time you're midlife, around 40 years old, you're fully developed physically and you're fully developed as far as having enough experience in life where now you're in tune to what works for you. But the key to collecting that data and using it to make a good decision is you have to be honest with yourself and you have to remind yourself every day, daily basis. Because in today's world, AI, artificial intelligence, a big part of it is just that we now have so much data we've collected, and computers can take that data, crunch it, and form decisions, and it just becomes like this ongoing evolution of intelligence, okay, through the data that's collected. And midlife, you've collected enough data through your personal relationships, through your personal life experiences, through your career. You have enough data to know what works for you. As an example, if you've been in a lot of relationships and you've been single, and while you've been in relationships, you've been sadder and more depressed than when you've been single, you may have enough data to say, you know what, being single is not perfect, but it may be the best for me. And vice versa. Maybe you are an extrovert, and maybe you thrive off the energy of social events, and you do better having someone in your life. So you're going to say, okay, well, relationships are better for me. And same thing with your career. Maybe you don't work well with your hands, but maybe you work well behind a computer. Or maybe you don't work well behind a computer, but you work well with your hands. So what you're trying to do in your midlife crisis is create an opportunity for you to start putting your energy, your time, your resources into things now that you've kind of know through the track record of your life experience what works for you and what doesn't. Don't fight yourself. Don't cram yourself in a relationship that you know now, midlife, you know this relationship has a recurring pattern. It's 2 weeks of goodness and 2 months of sadness. Don't cram yourself into trying to do something that goes against your natural talents. I often said, like, I started my career working with my hands, but I knew my talents are more in organization, communication, project management, and even engineering than it is turning wrenches. But you do what you need to do when you're young so that when the time your midlife comes, now you can steer the ship more. And whether it's personally, professionally, logistically, what climate do you thrive in? Do you like it hot most of the year? Then you would move to a state or an area logistically where it's hot most of the year. Do you like 4 seasons? Do you like it cold most of the year? Do you like mountains? Do you like the beach? Where do you like? Nothing's perfect. But you're trying to kind of make this crisis an opportunity to change before it's the end of your life. But the key is, again, you got to be honest with yourself and you got to remind yourself. And part of being honest with yourself is saying, okay, nothing's perfect, but what's better? And then when you change, you got to remind yourself not to go back. You'll go back to a relationship, back to a state, back to doing something you hate because you don't remind yourself how bad it was because you don't want to adapt to something new. Change requires adaptation. Most humans struggle with change the most. They resisted cars, they resisted smartphones, they resist electric cars, they resist change. Now, eventually change happens. How does most major change happens? Generations die. People reach the 80-year-old mark and beyond, and they die off, and the new generation who was brought up with computers or brought up riding cars, not horses, the new generation takes over. And major change cycles every 80 years. But you don't have to wait for a generation to die. You can always change your life every day, but you got to be honest with yourself and you got to remind yourself. Now that you're 40 or whatever, you're around mid-age, this is mainly for mid-age people, but my young people, my old people can still relate because it's a message of self-improvement, self-development. Putting your energy not trying to fight the world, but trying to change yourself in a healthy, positive way. Does this relationship bring you recurring sadness or recurring reciprocal respect and joy? Does this environment bring me trouble, depression, and contentiousness, or does it inspire me? Does it make me feel welcome? You know, do I naturally have a gift of gab, or do I naturally have a gift of being a caretaker? Do I naturally have a gift, of project management, or do I naturally have a gift of gaming? Now, some gifts you have do not create a sustainable income. So there's always part of life that you have to do things you don't want to do, but you do them so that you can work on your life in other areas, and eventually, as you get older, if you've done the work of your life, you can start to make decisions that steer your life more towards what you want to do versus what you have to. And if you become mid-age and you downsize and you maintain income, you increase income, and you shit-can relationships that are unhealthy, and you remind yourself not to go back to them, and if you change geographical locations, does it make life perfect? No. Midlife, guys, is basically saying that life, don't matter where you move, what you do, nothing's perfect, but there is better. But the only way to sustain better, you can have a video go viral, you can have your life go viral, where you're on this extreme high. But the only way to sustain it is to have a sustainable budget financially, to have a sustainable diet health-wise, to have a sustainable lifestyle, so that you can spend the next 40 years of your life, the last 40, or the last 4, however you're old, you can spend the last part of your life doing as many things that you have found work for you better versus dead-end streets that don't work for you. That's the value of a midlife crisis. Turn it to an opportunity by using the life experience you have now, the data you've collected, living half your life expectancy, and saying, this works for me, this doesn't. And, and then just put your energy into changing and remind yourself every day what you need to do. I hope this video helped you in a practical way. If it did, click the thumbs up and click the join button if you'd like to support the channel. Thank you to my members. I appreciate you. Share the video, leave a comment, keep showing up. Why? Your life gets better if you show up. If you go to sleep and you turn over in the bed, your life gets worse. Why? Because you're going to wake up and you're going to be even more out of shape, more broke, more depressed, and then you're more agony. And so just remember, the motivation of getting out of bed and doing what you need to do, laundry, exercise, productivity, creativity is, it's better quality of life while you're here. You won't always be here, and sometimes that's a good thing. But while you're here, make it the best quality life you possibly can. Thank you for watching.